Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter World Iceborne. And let me apologize from the get-go. My voice is a little bit slurred in this video. That is because I'm extremely sleep deprived right now. But I still wanted to put out a video. I haven't put out a video on YouTube for like the past 2 days because I've been having like a really hectic week again. I really apologize for that. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about Frostcraft. Now, for those of you that are not aware, Frostcraft is the 4-piece set bonus of the Velkhana armor set. And a lot of people have been asking me, Rurikhan, what is that blue gauge under your stamina? That right there, my friends, is the Frostcraft. And how Frostcraft works is if the gauge is full, you're going to be dealing more damage on the monsters. I believe for the maximum gauge, you're going to be dealing about 30% additional damage. When you start lowering it one tier, you're going to get 20% more damage. And when you lower it another tier, you're going to get 10% more damage. And then eventually, when you don't have any gauge at all, you're going to be dealing the base damage of your weapon, so no bonus whatsoever. The way you refill that gauge is by sheathing your weapon. And this is actually something that I've been experimenting with on the sword and shield. Now, the first time that I touched up on this particular set bonus was with one of my hammer sets that I've done a while back. You guys might remember it. It used the Frostcraft skill to deal as much damage as possible with the Ruiner Nergigante hammer, which is a hammer that I really enjoyed, and I really like that build because one of the cool things about Frostcraft is that it forces you to think about dealing damage in a different way, whereas most builds you're like, I want to keep my weapon out as much as possible, deal as much damage as possible, as fast as I possibly can on the monster, whereas this build tries to focus around you dealing burst damage onto the monster and then sheathing your weapon, which, as it turns out, after all the time that I've spent playing on the PC, I've told you guys about this, how I kind of like went to the PC side of things and I had to play from scratch with underpowered gear and all that, and it really forced me to learn the sword and shield from a different perspective from any of the other weapons that I had played before, because like even with a gun lance, I can usually kind of like, you know, stagger monsters a lot more efficiently, either through the sheer damage of the gun lance or through the shelling. You can kind of go the same route with a greatsword or with a hammer. You can usually force flinches on the monster. It's not as easy to pull that stuff off with an underpowered sword and shield, which is what I had to do, and I had to kind of learn a lot of stuff along the way. And an interesting thing is that it changed the way in which I play sword and shield. Like, one of the skills that I would never even consider using for just about anything in my sets would be evade window, whereas now, as I've been telling you guys through a lot of my previous videos, I value evade window a lot when I play sword and shield. Like, I try to dodge a lot of stuff. I've been dodging some wars. I'm still learning, mind you. Even after all those hours, I still feel like I'm always learning something new about the sword and shield. And one of my latest experiments has been to use Frostcraft. Now, the last time that I used Frostcraft, I focused around getting as much raw damage as possible on a hammer. And I've done some builds since then to do like crit draw greatsword with Frostcraft because it just kind of makes sense, right? But I hadn't really tried it out with a sword and shield because I always thought, you know, you just attack so much with a sword and shield that you're just going to burn out the Frostcraft gauge in no time, and you're going to be like stuck with nothing, which basically means you're wearing all of this Frostcraft armor, which isn't even that great to begin with, but then on top of it, you know, after a little bit of attacking, you're done. But depending on how you actually play with this weapon, and I found out that it actually suits my current sword and shield playstyle quite well, there are actually a lot of opportunities for you to sheath your weapon, reposition yourself, you know, go for a perfect rush, go for a shield slam, and on top of it, due to the buffs that we got on console for the clutch claw grab of the sword and shield, it actually incentivizes you to clutch claw the monster a lot more often, and whenever you clutch, it counts as you having your weapon sheathed. So just the process of you rolling into a Chlor-Yukin, which is like when you do the uppercut with your clutch claw, rolling into that and then clutching the monster and then immediately going for like your attack to tenderize a monster or something. Just that process of clutching onto the monster, the moment between you clutching and you actually attacking, that is usually enough to raise 1 bar of Frostcraft. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Whenever you mount a monster, that's another opportunity. It fully charges it up. And I also noticed that, and again, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't like went with a timer and scientifically tested this stuff out. But it seems to me that lighter weapons, you know, faster weapons, charge the Frostcraft Frostcraft gauge a little bit faster. Again, I'm not 100% sure on this. It might be something very minimal, might have something to do with the builds that I'm using. I don't know, but I'm saying that is the feeling I got by comparing how fast it fills up from my sword and shield versus how fast it fills up for my greatsword. Again, it could just be like a very mental thing. I didn't feel the need to really test that stuff out. But basically what I'm trying to get at is that this is not only extremely viable, it also became my favorite way to actually play the sword and shield. Now, an interesting thing here is the very first time I did this, like I said, I focused very much on the raw damage aspect of it. And that's kind of like what I did when I came into it thinking about sword and shield. I was like, I'm just gonna grab like a Safi sword and shield with blast, just gonna stack it with attack and boom, call it a day. But interestingly enough, one of the things that I was overlooking is the fact that in order for you to get the 4-piece set bonus of Velkhana, you're also getting the 2-piece set bonus of Velkhana, which comes with critical element. And that got me thinking, I was like, oh, that means we can actually get a little bit more damage if we actually use elemental weapons and match those to the elemental weakness of the monster. And that basically set me on the path to go and do a bunch more Safi Jiva runs to collect a lot more swords. And I know there's probably some PC users out there that are thinking about this. Okay, here we go, another Safi Jiva build video, don't care, not gonna watch. And it's like later down in the video, I will show you guys the build that I've done on PC as well. So I will have a build for the PS4 and a build for the PC as well for those of you that are on the PC. And you know, April can't come fast enough so that I don't have to make these distinctions anymore. It's like, look, everybody's got the same thing and here's what we work with. But you know, we're gonna start things off with Safi, and like I said, you're gonna need 5 different sword and shields, each of them with the 5 different elements to really take full advantage of the damage potential of this build. Because you know, critical element is going to give you more damage whenever you crit with an element of the opposing element on the monster, you know, the element that the monster is weak to. And on top of it, then it's going to stack with Frostcraft on top of that, plus all of the other damage skills that you might have on top of that. Now, just because it's got critical element, I still don't want to go after too much elemental damage. I've explained this to you guys in the past. I know that a lot of people like to focus on elemental sword and shield for the damage potential that it has, but I don't like avoiding the shield as an option to deal damage. So I prefer to focus on the raw damage aspect of it. The little bit of elemental that's going to come on this build is just going to be like a nice little added bonus. And if you want to do this with just a raw weapon, you can do just a raw weapon on the PC side of things. I would advise you to go for like the Nergigante sword and shield, and you can probably get some pretty decent results. And on the console side of things, just get whatever element you want or whatever ailment you want, max out the attack, and Bob's your uncle. Now, the weapon that I'm using for this is the Safi's Hakfang, and as with every Safi weapon, the actual stats of the weapon don't matter that much. The only thing that matters is your awakened abilities, and on here we are going to get Velkhana's Divinity, naturally, because Velkhana's armor is just not that great, so replacing one of those parts with a more useful piece is going to be something that you definitely want to get, at least in my opinion, but you can still do the 4-piece Velkhana if you want to. I prefer to go this route. So you got Velkhana's Divinity, you got 3 level 5 attack increases, and you got a sharpness increase level 6. Now, the sharpness increase level 6 just reveals to you guys how much I like my comfy builds. I like the comfiness of that extra sharpness. If you prefer to play it closer to the chest and you don't mind having to deal with sharpness issues here and there, then you can go for sharpness increase level 5 and go for attack increase level 6, and you'll squeeze even more damage out of it. Now, in terms of augmentations on this weapon, we are doing affinity increase 2, health regen, as well as element status effect up. And on the PC side of things, I know you guys still don't have all these augmentations. You will have them by the time we get to April, because a lot of people keep asking me, Rurikhan, how could you have all these augmentation slots and I can't have those? You will get those. You're going to get an additional one when Rajan comes around, then you're going to get another one when you get Stygian Zinogre. Do keep in mind that, like I said, in order to really take full advantage of this set, I would advise you to do basically copies of this particular weapon for the different elements. You'd get like Safi's Hellfang, Safi's Boltfang, you know, and so on and so forth, right? Now, looking at the build itself, you guys can see that we are using 3 pieces of Velkhana because the other one comes from the weapon itself, and the pieces that we chose to use are the helm, the chest, and the belt. The reasoning for that is because the Velkhana gloves are not that great, and when it comes to legs, nothing is really better than the Garuga Greaves as of yet. at least for the purpose of this particular build. So, you know, I'd advise you to get those 3 pieces and then use Kaiser Vambraces for the gloves and Garuga Greaves for the legs. Now, when it comes to decorations on the weapon, we got Tenderizer Vitality, then we got on the helm Critical Vitality, as well as another critical. On the Rhyme Guard Mail, we got Critical Evasion and an Expert Deco. On the Kaiser Vambrace, we got Tenderizer Vitality and a Phoenix Deco. On the Coil Beta, we got Expert +4 and another Expert, and on the Garuga Greaves Beta, we got Flight, Expert, Jewel 4, and 2 Evasion Decos. Now, the reason I use that Flight decoration in there is because I really like the Helm Splitter attack of the Sword and Shield, which is the special attack that you get whenever you run into those mushroom walls and stuff like that. I realize that not everybody is going to like that particular attack. It's just a very personal thing to me. So if you don't like the idea of using that attack, you can replace the Flight decoration with something else that you prefer for your own taste. We wrap up the build with a Phoenix Charm. The reason I use that is because I don't really have that many good Coalescence decos, because you could potentially optimize this build if you had better Coalescence decos. But yeah, that's what we're running with. And I just really like Coalescence because it increases both your physical damage as well as your elemental damage. So you're going to get a bonus on the critical element as well as on the Frostcraft itself from the already bonus that you get from critical element, as well as the attack bonus that you get on top of it. And a lot of monsters have stuff that will trigger Coalescence. And Coalescence is actually one of the procs that sticks around long enough to be meaningful, in my opinion. Then we use the Glider Mantle mostly as a stat mantle to get tier 4 decorations. I put 2 Challenger Jewels in there. You might want to put something else if you prefer. And we use the Temporal Mantle to guarantee that we can slam monsters into walls when we need to. As I told you guys, that's usually what I tend to use the Temporal Mantle for. If you guys take a look at the finalized build, you'll notice that we have all of the blue things, the important stuff, which is the Critical Eye, the Critical Boost, and the Weakness Exploit. We have Health Boost level 3 for nice comfiness. If you don't like that, you actually can get away without health boost. As a matter of fact, on the PC side of things, where I don't have as good decorations, I actually didn't have health boost for the longest time, and I was still able to take on Tempered Velkhana in the Guiding Lands. Now, you know, it is more challenging, and you will get carded a little bit more frequently, depending on how good you are with Sword and Shield, but in this side of things, I do have enough to put the health boost up, so I do put it in there. We also have level 3 Evade Window, which is usually what I try to run. I actually like having more, you know, the more the merrier. It's just stuff really gets limited when you start using the Velkhana set because it just doesn't have that many sockets for you to put skills into, and you end up with a bunch of useless stuff as well. We do have level 3 Coalescence as well, and then we have the things that come with the Velkhana set, such as Quick Sheet, Divine Blessing. Divine Blessing actually comes in handy every now and then. It will save your life. Quick Sheath, on the other hand, not super useful for the Sword and Shield because it's already got like one of the fastest cheats that you can get. You get Heat Guard from the Kaiser Vambraces, which is pretty sweet. You get Airborne from that deco that I told you guys about, and you have 1 level of Flinch Free that comes from the Velkhana set. Then you got level 4 Agitator whenever you put on your Glider Mantle. So whenever the monster becomes enraged, you are encouraged to put your Glider Mantle up to increase your damage. And you get 2 Tool Specialists whenever you use the Temporal Mantle. And naturally you have Velkhana's Divinity for Peace bonus. Like I said, I find this build to be a ton of fun. It is currently my favorite build to play with the Sword and Shield because it really gives me time to engage the monsters on my terms. Whereas usually I kind of feel a little bit pressured to go after the monster whenever I'm with a regular build, so to speak. I kind of feel like I'm rewarded here for playing a little bit more patiently and like, hey, let's sheath our weapon, get our charge back, and now, you know, go for a different approach on the monster. And that's why in this video you'll probably see me hunting like Tempered Rajang, which is to me one of the hardest monsters that I still kind of struggle with a little bit. So I thought that would be a good test to really put this weapon through its paces. Naturally, with the Rajang fight, I'm using the ice version of the Safi weapon, which is what you should do. You should align your element to be the best element against the monster that you are fighting. Now, let me show you guys the PC build. Now, on the PC side of things, in a pre-Safi Jiva world, you can't just have, you know, 5 of the same weapon with different elements. You actually have to use the weapon tree, which is one of the reasons why I enjoy playing on PC so much, because these weapons are still relevant. So the weapons that I picked for Thunder was the Despot's Crookbolt, and you don't have to pick these weapons. You can pick whichever weapon you want. I just went for stuff that had high raw damage and looked good, with the exception of one, which when I show you guys, it's just, oh my god, whatever. But anyway, Despot's Crookbolt for Thunder. We got the Noble Anna Palace, which is Velkhana's Sword and Shield for Frost. We have Platinum Dawn, which is Silverlow's Sword and Shield for Fire. We have Ruinous Eradication, which is one of my favorite weapons in this game. I love the look of this axe. It just looks fantastic. It's got hella good sharp. It's just a really, really good weapon all around. I love using it. And then finally, for the water side of things, we have this thing, which is hands down one of the ugliest weapons I've ever laid my eyes on. Which is really just like appalling how such a beautiful monster as Namiel could have this hooked turd as a sword and shield is just beyond me. But anyway, in terms of custom augmentations, all I did was I amped up the raw damage. I did not touch elemental damage at all. We augmented it already for affinity, and it's also got 360 water damage. Now, you guys might be wondering, why is this one the only weapon that is augmented for affinity? It is because it is rarity 11, and therefore it has more augmentation slots than all of the other ones, because all of the other weapons are augmented for health regen and element status effect up. With the exception of this one, which comes with health regen and affinity increase. If I could, I'd put affinity increase on all of these, but I cannot because we don't have additional slots yet. But when they become available on PC, I will be adding the affinity instead of the element status effect up. And then when we get all of the augmentation slots that we have on console, I'll have both augmentation up as well as element status effect up as well. So that is what we are doing with the weapons. Like I said, feel free to pick different ones. These are just the ones that I picked. I'm going to be showing you guys the example with the Noble Anna Palace. Now, when it comes to the build itself, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that regardless of which weapon you use, you're going to need to put an expert decoration on the weapon of your choosing. The reasoning that is that way for me is because of the way that I engineered the build. I really don't tend to save loadouts on PC. I just kind of bursted through the content like super fast. So I end up manually just swapping weapons around instead of swapping full loadouts. So I just kept one expert decoration on all of my weapons, and I can just change them whenever I need them. And this actually works really great for me because I have like one set for guiding lands, one set for regular hunting. It's just the way that I did it. You can change stuff around to suit yourself, but that's why in my build, it's assuming that you always put an expert decoration on the weapon, okay? Anyway, in terms of the armor, we have the Rhymegarm Helm Alpha, because that comes with a freebie in terms of coalescence, and this is a much more budget-oriented build because I don't have that many great decorations on the PC side of things. Then we're going to slot in a Phoenix deco and a Tenderizer deco, and then we have the Rhymeguard Male Beta with Satiated Expert Jewel 4 and another Vitality Jewel. The Rhymeguard Van Bracers Beta with Tenderizer Vitality. I know that's a bit of a rare one if you don't play that much, but you know, I just got it, so it can't be that hard if you just put a little bit of effort into it and getting a couple of tier 3 hunts down. We got the Rhymeguard Coil Alpha Plus once again because of the extra coalescence that we're going to be getting from there. Then we got Critical Jewel and Expert Jewel +1, and finally we have the best boots in the business, Garuga Greaves Beta with Expert Jewel +4, Critical Jewel +2, and Tenderizer Jewel +2. Now, the reason we went with the braces as the 4th armor piece is because naturally we don't have, you know, the Safi set bonus that you can get from the weapon and stuff. So we need to have actually 4 pieces of Velkhana, and nothing beats the itemization of Garuga Greaves. So the choice is pretty obvious. Just get the 4 top pieces and use the Garuga Greaves. We then have an Evasion Charm 4, which a lot of people are probably going to say, I don't need that. And it's like, look, if you don't like using evasion, don't use that evasion, just use something else. As you can see, my glider mantle isn't even fully augmented. I don't even know what I will put in my glider mantle when I do. So as you can tell, on the PC side of things, the build is much more budget oriented, but I'm pretty capable of hunting tier 3 tempereds with this thing, pretty much anything. With the weapons that I showed you guys, and this stuff augmented for health regen, the full armor is already fully augmented and all that good stuff. Anyway, when it comes to the finalized build, you got Critical Eye 7, you got Evade Window 4, Weakness Exploit, Quick Sheet, Coalescence, Health Boost. You only get 2 critical boosts, which is why you might want to, I mean, I don't know, if you have better decos, you might be able to do something better. Maybe you want to sacrifice Coalescence in favor of Critical Boost. To be quite honest, I don't know which one would be the better damage gain. I just kind of really like Coalescence, so whatever. Then you also got 2 Divine Blessing and 2 Flinch Free that come from the set itself. Nothing you can do there. You have the Free Meal, Affinity Sliding, because I don't really have a good Critical Eye deco to put on the sword, so I just put Affinity Sliding, it's whatever. And then you got your 4-piece set bonus with Critical Element and Frostcraft. Frostcraft turns out to be a very interesting skill for me personally because it kind of changes the way that I play the game. There's a lot of weapons that you can use with Frostcraft. The first ones that come to mind is instantly Hammer and Greatsword, like you can just beast monsters with them. I don't think it's particularly useful with Charge Blade from the testing that I've done in the past, but hey, you know, I could be proven wrong, who the hell knows. I don't know about any other weapons. I know that it's probably really good with Longsword as well because of all the sheathing mechanics that the Longsword has. They count towards the recharging of the Frostcraft, so I think we've seen actually a lot of builds using Longsword and Frostcraft, but yeah, I personally really like it. I'd like to know what you guys think about Frostcraft. It is one of the few skills that actually changes the way that you really play the game, and I find it to be very interesting. I don't think this is going to be for speed runs, but again, I don't actually know. I don't follow the scene that closely, but if it is working on speed runs, hey man, good stuff. I've been having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, just let me know what you guys think. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.